took a moment ago, and then a nice uppercut as well. But Ortiz comes over the top with a right hand of his own. Left hook.
Wow. Welcome back to Corner Man Boxing. It's your boy Monroe Live and Direct. Wow. First of all, thank you to the promoters for giving us such a great fight between Boacek and Virgil Ortiz. Let's deep dive into this, right? Because I'm hearing a whole bunch of complaints about how this fight was decided. And you know what? Before I give you my opinion on the decision, we have to first recognize, right? Virgil Ortiz, 21-21 at 147. Moving up to 154, different monster. You know what I mean? So, same thing with Terrence Crawford, right? Terrence Crawford at 147 looked unstoppable. Goes up to fight Israel Madrimov, not so unstoppable, right? So, and then, guys, we have to also realize these guys are attempting to be great. Not only that, moving up in weight takes an adjustment, right? Like, that's their first fight at 154. Granted, did anyone expect, we'll take Terrence Crawford, for example. Did anyone expect Israel Madrimov to be at the level to go the distance with Terrence Crawford? Now, I don't think anybody really expected that. But then again, how do you think he got the fight? Right? I mean, obviously he had a level of skill and some skill sets that called for that fight, right? I mean, granted, it was also a way for Terrence Crawford to be unified at that weight. It seemed like an easy fight, but it wasn't. And we'll get into that later on in this. We're talking about Boacek and Virgil Ortiz. But I hear, right, what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is that people are having a hard time understanding how the judges ruled that Virgil Ortiz won. You know what? It can go both ways, right? Listen, Boacek's a monster of a fighter. Obviously, this was his, first or second title defense at 154. I mean, he couldn't miss all night with the right cross, but it wasn't like it was a walk in the park. Virgil Ortiz did not make this an easy fight for Boacek to be in. I mean, he made it uncomfortable the entire way. My question is, first and foremost, was the knockdown in the first round an actual knockdown? According to what I saw and what the referee did, that was ruled a slip. I would have counted that a knockdown, personally. The glove landed, his gloves hit the floor. That's a knockdown in my eyes. It was ruled a slip. There's where I think some people are having a discrepancy and wondering what's really going on here, right? Are the judges, is there something up, right? Again, you can't, judges do what they're going to do, right? Refs do what they're going to do. I'm going to say this about the fight. It was very competitive, and it was hard to score. Personally, I think it should have been a draw where Boacek could have kept his title. That's my personal opinion. And should we see a rematch immediately? Absolutely, 100%. It's kind of odd that in the beginning, and really it's not, because this happened in the Terrence Crawford fight with Israel Madrimov, where just before the fight begins, they're already talking about the next fight being signed for Terrence Crawford with Canelo Alvarez, should he win, right? They did the same thing here with Virgil Ortiz and Terrence Crawford. Should he win tonight, that's the fight they're going to next. I beg to differ. And I think a lot of people would agree with me that I think Boacek deserves a rematch. Whether a rematch clause was part of the contract or the agreement, I don't know. I didn't look at that. But there is no doubt in my mind that Boacek deserves a rematch. I personally think he should still be the champion of the world last night. And it was tough because a lot of people think Virgil Ortiz, they both have impeccable records. Boacek only had one loss going into this fight. What was it, 23 fights, 22 knockouts, something of that nature? One loss. That's an impeccable record. I mean, that's a 90% knockout ratio. Virgil Ortiz had a 100% knockout ratio at 147. If you want my honest opinion, I think Virgil Ortiz is right where he needs to be. Right at 154. This is where we're going to find out who's great. Right? At the end of the day, if you're in a weight class like Conor McGregor when he was in MMA, when he was fighting all the lightweights, he was running through them. Of course, you're gonna look great when you're fighting guys who are smaller. You know, they weigh less after you come in after weigh in. You come in out fight night, you weigh a hell of a lot more. Of course, that's why we have weight classes for a reason. So, I think Virgil Ortiz is right where he needs to be. I think that the adjustment showed, right? I mean, he was never really like physically hurt where he was in jeopardy of losing this fight, but he definitely got knocked down twice. Did they count that first one? No, it don't seem like that to me. I know they're talking about it. They're doing a lot of talking about it, but as far as I can tell, the judges only counted one knockdown, right? Because the ref ruled the first one a slip. From what I see, I hear a lot of people talking about two knockdowns. I don't know how you're counting two knockdowns if one was ruled a slip. If you know something I don't, please leave it in the comment box. Let me know. But as far as I can tell, again, that was a slip in the first round. I wouldn't have ruled it a slip. That was definitely a knockdown in my eyes. But that's what during this fight, that's what occurred. So we have to go with what the judges and the ref called it. Honest to God, to be honest with you, yeah, Boacek, I think he had trouble with Virgil Ortiz. I mean, Virgil Ortiz was on the go every round. I hear people talking about he got beat up. I don't see that at all. I mean, show me where Virgil Ortiz is getting beat up. Did he get touched? Absolutely. Did he have to come back from adversity a couple times? Sure, but never like truly hurt. That's my thing. And in my opinion, right, if you're gonna come up a weight class to challenge the champion, in my opinion, you gotta convincingly beat that champion or take that belt by knockout, right? Or this was just overwhelmingly a beatdown. That's how you take the belt. I didn't see that here. So did the judges get it wrong? I mean, this is a tough one because we criticized the judges and we mentioned that, they should be held liable for their decisions. There should be more scrutiny on them. And I agree with that completely, 100%. Because a lot of times they get it wrong. And I agree with the masses when it comes to those type of fights. And this one here, I don't know, man. I mean, again, if it was me judging this fight, I honestly think that Boacek did enough to keep his title. That should have been a split decision, all the way down, hands down. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that for you. But Virgil Ortiz did put up a fight. He came to fight, and he put up a great fight. Again, it could have went either way. And am I upset with the decision? Again, I do feel like Boacek should be the champion today. But it didn't happen that way, right? But what I do think is that before we talk about a Virgil Ortiz fighting a Terence Crawford, which, with all due respect, I don't think Virgil Ortiz is ready for Terence Crawford. I don't. I'm going to be totally 100% honest with you. Is he a great fighter? Sure. Does he got great surroundings, great coaching? 100%. Can he make some adjustments? Sure, but I think that Terence, again, there's levels to this, and I think that Terence Crawford is at a level, and we're gonna get into that now, because I think we need to address last week's fight, which I was sick and honestly couldn't even find my way to come down to my studio to do this, but there's levels to it. And I don't think Virgil Ortiz is ready for Terence Crawford. I just don't. I mean, if I'm keeping it 100, Virgil Ortiz should fight, a William Zepeda next. I know people are talking about Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda, and, I just don't think he's ready for that, right, personally. That's just my opinion. I think maybe he should go back down. If he can't handle 154, I think you're right where you need to be, right? To see if you're great, to see if you really are that great of a fighter, 21-21. But if you can't handle it here, go back down. Fight a Shakur Stevenson, fight a William Zepeda, right? Before you start talking Terrence Crawford. I mean, guys, you got to understand those are big mega fights, and the reason that these fights like Israel Madrimov and Terrence Crawford are not doing the numbers that they're supposed to is because who the hell knew who Israel Madrimov was? If you're not a fanatic of boxing and an analyst like myself and other content creators who do this, you never even heard of Israel Madrimov, right? So it's hard to sell a fight just based on Terrence Crawford alone. Was the stadium packed? Sure, 100%. We're talking pay-per-view numbers. Only 100,000 is what is being reported. 100, 150, I don't know, somewhere in that neighborhood. But it's not. This is why they're not selling, because we don't have the big mega fights happening between two all-stars. You know what I mean? Like two stars in there. It's not happening. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's if you had a Terrence Crawford and a Canelo Alvarez, big mega showdown, that's going to do the numbers 100%. I don't think anybody has a doubt in that, right? If you had a Canelo Alvarez, David Benavidez, mega showdown, nobody's doubting that it's going to do the numbers. But how many fights can you really put together on that level and guarantee those numbers? I mean, there are really not many out there. The rest of these guys, when it comes to someone like Terrence Crawford or Canelo Alvarez, or Tank Davis, let's throw him in the mix, because those are the three names that pop up to me that are hands down the stars in the game. They're the face of boxing when it comes to their weight classes. And truth be told, who can you really put against them that's gonna do the numbers? I mean, even if you took a Shakur Stevenson and put him against the Tank Davis, I think that we could hope that would do the numbers, right? We know Tank Davis's side is going to put up the numbers, right? That he brings his own show. The question is how much fan base does Shakur Stevenson bring to the table, right? I mean, we've had that argument before with guys like him. Certain people are not satisfied with their skill set and how they fight. I've mentioned it before where I would tell you differently. Shakur Stevenson's a technician in there. He's a problem. And he fights how he fights. Regardless of whether you like it or not, it's boring. But then again, it's like this, right? The fans want you to brawl out. The fans want you to give them a better show. But that's just not your style. So how do you, where's the happy medium, right? Because at the end of the day, Shakur Stevenson is undefeated. And regardless of what you think of him, he's a technician, if not the best technician out there in his weight class. So will those fights pull numbers? Yeah, I think those type of fights will bring the numbers. But when you're talking about putting a Virgil Ortiz against a Terrence Crawford, I think everybody in the world who is a boxing fan, and I'm not talking about fanboys, I'm talking about real, like, people who have been in the sport for a long time and understand boxing. I think we all understand that that's not the fight for Terrence Crawford. It's not. As a matter of fact, to be completely honest with you, we all know styles make fights, right? And I'm not down in any other fighter. But Terrence Crawford is at a different level. Let's get into Israel Madrimov and Terrence Crawford. I'm going to make a point, right? Terrence Crawford's last fight against Errol Spence, nobody expected that outcome. Nobody. And we can sit here and we can say, oh, Terrence Crawford was in a car accident. He wasn't quite ready to come into that fight. I'm going to tell you, right, that you shouldn't sign up for a fight if you're not physically, mentally, and emotionally ready to do this, right? Let's not forget that Errol Spence had multiple fights before fighting Terrence Crawford after his car wreck. So we can't really use that. Why all of a sudden when he loses, that becomes an issue that we're going to bring up, or he was in a car accident? Granted, he was in a vicious, diabolical car accident. I mean, that was bad. His life was on the line. I mean, that was a crazy accident. But they only brought that up, right, and attributed to his downfall when he lost, and he lost badly, like convincingly, right? I mean, it was a stoppage, TKO. So I don't buy it. You can't sell me on that, right? You shouldn't. If you're not physically, medically, if you can't pass medically to be in a fight, you shouldn't fight. Obviously, he passed, right? There must have been some testing done for him to pass. So I don't buy it, right? He was just outmatched, outclassed that night, and that can happen to anybody. That's not to say that in a rematch, right, we might see the same exact fight. We may not. To be honest with you, I'm going to explain something, right? Even myself, who never made it to the pros, right? But when I knew I was going into an amateur fight, or when I was playing baseball and we were playing a team that were known for being awesome, like they're the ones to beat, right? Same thing in a fight. I'm fighting against Mike Easton in the Golden Gloves. I knew that was the dude to beat. He looked phenomenal in the first 3 fights that I saw him fight, right? So what I knew going into that, I had to be at a level of perfection, right? I was honed in, like stepping. It's one thing, right, when you come out the doors, right, from the locker room, and you're walking towards the ring, right? You see the fans, you see everything that happens, right? Everybody, you see some people, you know what's up, how you doing, right? But once you cross the ropes and you enter that ring, it's like lights go out, pew, right? And you tune in. Nothing else exists, right? And that's the level of that's when you know, like, you're in there with somebody that you have to be at your best. You cannot make a mistake, right? And I think that that's exactly what we saw when Terrence Crawford fought Spence. His IQ went through the roof. His focus was so in tune that he almost couldn't make a mistake. And then on top of that, once he realized, I'm better, I'm faster, right? He's making mistakes, it got even worse. So going into a fight with Madrimov, right, Israel Madrimov, Israel is that same fighter coming out the locker room. He understands. Great, the fans are here. Some of my family's here to support me. My countrymen are here to support me. But once he entered that ring, it was IQ time. It was focus on nothing else but this man and stick to the game plan, right? And what better than to, because he gave to guys, honest to God, he gave Terrence Crawford a lot of issues in there. I think Terrence Crawford won the fight. I know some people disagree with that. I believe he won the fight. The way I scored it, he did. But why? You got to ask yourself, right? Madrimov had to come in. It took him a long time to get started. Madrimov didn't get started getting comfortable, throwing punches and engaging in the fight until like about round 4. You know, it took him that long. But we all understand why. If you're an analyst, if you're a boxing fanatic, you know exactly why it took him that long to be able to do what he had to do. He had to present so many different looks, right, that it would make Terrence Crawford uncomfortable to even get started on anything. This is why during the first 4 rounds, you seen Terrence Crawford literally just controlling the distance, using his jab, and occasionally when he found an opening, he would open up and hit him with a couple punches, but nothing that was like, I'm going for the gusto, right? This was not a walk in the park for Terrence Crawford. It wasn't. I know some people thought it should have been, and people are talking that way, right? Like, it's the guy who's got 10 fights. Terrence Crawford ain't all what everybody says he is. No, he is, actually. He really is. It's just when you go against a guy who's, 1, fighting for his country, right? 2, he knows and understands what he's in with, right? Some guys come in there fearful, right? They're already scared. That didn't work with Madrimov, not even in the slightest, right? You couldn't even budge him. He was tuned in, At the press conference, he was tuned in. At the weigh-ins, nothing budged his foundation. You couldn't shake it. Facts, right? So, of course, he's not coming into the fight that way. Excuse me. He's coming into the fight focused. He knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he did it, right? Every time he level changed, Terrence Crawford had to set back up, right, with what he was trying to do. Too many different looks, right? Too many changes in that his head was everywhere, up, down, left, right. Too many lateral movements. Listen, you got to give Madrimov his credit. You got to give him his credit. Was it a close fight? I think we can make an argument, right, that it was a good enough fight for Madrimov to give himself a name, right? It was a good enough fight for Madrimov to say, I went the distance. And you know what? There's no way in how I can call that. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. Terrence Crawford won the fight. He did. According to my scorecard, how I scored it, according to the judges, they got it right. Was it a draw? Even if it was a split decision, I still believe it should have been on Terrence Crawford's side. But you can make an argument how you want to, right? It depends on how, again, there's a lot of fanboys out there who want to, you got your difference of opinion, and that's okay, no problem. That's what it is. That's how this goes, right? But if you go back and watch the fight over and over again, you'll see who landed the more crisp combinations. You'll see who controlled distance very well. I mean, Madrimov did not do a bad job. I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. He put on a show. He showed a blueprint, I guess, as to how to be effective against Terrence Crawford. There was no point in time in that fight where I seen Terrence Crawford hurt or had to come back from adversity. Not at all. Not even in the slightest. Could he have hurt him? I think if Madrimov would have opened up more, and he caught him, I think he could have hurt Terrence Crawford. I think he could have gave him a little more trouble. But then again, if you look at it from the other side, Terrence Crawford's that good. If you would have opened up any more than what you were, if you would have made just a little mistake, just a little one, that could have been the end of you, right? That could have been the end of that fight. So, yeah, guys, I'm sorry. I'll be honest with you. I think the judges got it right in both main cards, both main events. I don't believe Madrimov won that fight. I don't believe it was a draw. I believe it was a very close fight. And again, if we want to talk about it being a split decision, I'm still going to give it to Terrence Crawford. I'm just giving you my honest opinion on that. And the fight that we didn't get to talk about, which what's funny, was against Isaac Cruz and Rayo. Man, you know what? Rayo Venezuela is a special kind of guy, man. I like the guy a lot. I honestly think he has a great attitude going into the fight. He was trying to be a gentleman. He tried to shake hands. See, this is what I mean about once fighters hit that point of I'm the champion, right? Let's go back to when Isaac Cruz fought Tank Davis. Close fight. When they asked Tank Davis at the end of the fight, when they told him, they said this was a very close fight. Do you think it deserves a rematch? He said, nah, I don't think so. You really think he's that good? I don't think so. I'm going to tell you why he said that. Right? Was it a close fight? Absolutely. Did Isaac Cruz deserve a rematch? Maybe, maybe not. Let's discuss why he even got the fight in the first place, right? That fight was supposed to be against Rolly Romero, which he wasn't able to attend. So Isaac Cruz took that fight on a short notice, right? Which, in hindsight, when you look at it, that means Tank Davis did not train for that style of a fight, right? He had 4 weeks, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 4 weeks to train for that style of fighter. It seems to me that Tank Davis has an easier time with taller opponents, right, than shorter opponents. So that presented another problem. The thing is Tank Davis was still able to adjust to that fight and perform the way he performed and still pull off the win. So let's now fast forward, right? If we're talking about, because that's what that Rayo Venezuela fight with Isaac Cruz was Isaac Cruz outing to prove that he deserved a rematch with Tank Davis. It's like this. If you give Tank Davis, he's already fought Isaac Cruz, so he's familiar with his style, right? He even called that Isaac Cruz would demolish Rolly Romero, which he did, right? You give Tank a good 8 weeks to train for an Isaac Cruz, trust and believe me, you're going to see a very different fight. 100%. 100%. I can promise you that. I'll put money on the line, right? That's going to be a total different fight. In fact, be honest with you, I think Isaac Cruz gets knocked out. I'm just being real with you. I say that, right, to say this. Rayo Venezuela put on such a great performance against Isaac Cruz. That was literally, in my eyes, my opinion, that was a perfect outing. You couldn't have boxed any better against a style like what Isaac Cruz brings. You couldn't. That was a perfect pitch shutout. There was no... Listen, did Isaac Cruz, was he hurt in the fight? No. Did he land a couple good ones? Sure. I mean, that's going to happen. This is boxing. But Rayo controlled the distance, worked his jab. I think he could have did better with head movement, but he did just fine as far as keeping distance, and the footwork was amazing. There was no... Listen, here's the problem with Isaac Cruz. He doesn't know how to cut off a ring. He does not know how to trap somebody in a corner. For his style, he should have that. He should have that. If you're gonna be a brawler, you need to put your opponents in very, very uncomfortable positions, time and time again. Make them miss, make them pay. That's a brawler style. And he did a lot of following around, right? He's just following him around. I mean, anytime he would try to rush in, Rayo would just move to the side, right? Step right out to the right. It was easy for him to just pick away at Isaac Cruz. I mean, I don't know what anybody else was watching. I don't even know how Isaac Cruz could even make the argument that this should have been a split decision or should have went his way. It shouldn't have. That was a shutout. You got basically beat up. Were you hurt? No. Again, I'll make that my analysis was that you were never hurt. But you got punished. You got beat. You know what I mean? There is a absolute 100% blueprint out there right now on how to beat you. And for anybody who moves forward to fight Isaac Cruz, if you know how to box anywhere close to what Rayo Venezuela knows how to box, you're going to beat him. If you can stick to that game plan, you're going to beat him. The guy's got a beard. Like, Isaac Cruz got a chin, man. It's hard to hurt him, right? Like, he got hit with quite a few punches, but never did I once see him hurt. So, I mean, let's just be real. Give Rayo his flowers, man. He did it. He beat him. Now, let's go further. Does Rayo deserve a fight with Tank Davis? I don't know. You know what? I think he earned the right to fight him. Do I think he beats him? No, I don't. I don't. But then again, you never know. I mean, the difference between Isaac Cruz, again, I'll mention, and a Tank Davis is Tank Davis has a huge, like, his IQ is through the roof. He knows how to adjust in real time. You know what I mean? Like this, I don't know, man. I really don't see that being an Achilles heel for Tank Davis. I really don't. Who could beat Tank Davis? You know, I guess, you know what? Let me digress a little bit. Maybe Rayo could put up a pretty good fight, right? Tank is so calculated, though. You know what I mean? The thing is you would have to pitch another perfect fight. You know what I mean? You could not make one single solitary mistake. Do you know how hard that is to do? I would almost think that Shakur Stevenson would have a better shot at beating Tank Davis with that style of fight. Are you gonna knock Tank Davis out? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. Is it gonna go 12 rounds? Most likely, if he doesn't knock you out, right? If you keep that style of fight and you don't make a mistake, not one, because if you make that one, he's gonna make you make that one again. He's very good at that. I mean, he did it with Frank Martin. As soon as Frank Martin flinched, he smiled at him like, "I got you." Guys, it's a different monster. There's levels to this shit. There's levels to this. I don't care what anybody says. Styles can make fights, but when it comes to ring IQ, ring generalship, I'm sorry. Tank Davis is the master at it. So you would have to 100% be perfect all the way through 12 rounds. So the person that I would give that credit to who could possibly do that would be Shakur Stevenson. Do you win in a decision? Maybe. That's a big maybe. Because Tank's gonna find a way, man. Tank's gonna find a way to make that fight close. I'm gonna leave that one up in the air. I personally think my honest opinion is that either one, Shakur or Ryu, gets knocked out. That is my honest opinion. I think he makes you make a mistake, and I think he makes you pay. And you either get TKO'd or knocked out. One of the two. Again, if it goes 12 rounds, I'm going to leave that up in the air because I think it's very likely that Shakur is very defensively sound. I mean, he's a defensive fighter first. That's an absolute, that's a fact. He's a great counterpuncher. IQ's through the roof, but his offense is not there. So understand that Tank Davis understands that. You understand? So what do you wait? What do you make Shakur make the first moves, right? Throw the first punches so that he can understand timing. All of this comes into play, guys. I'm trying to tell you something. That's the only fight I see doing the big numbers. Shakur, Tank. I think that has the possibility of doing big numbers. You know, a Terrence Crawford, Canelo Alvarez, we already know that's been doing big payday. But again, if we're going to talk about, you know, Terrence Crawford fighting Fondor next, nah, I don't think Fondor wins that fight. Well, you know what? That's a fight right there. You know what? Fondor presents a problem. He's so tall and lanky. But again, you know what? With tall and lanky fighters, I don't think Fondor hits extremely hard. And I don't think he presents a lot of issues that someone like Terrence Crawford has already seen. Well, what else are you going to bring to the table that he hasn't dealt with, except for height? Yeah, I don't believe that Fondor can win a fight against Terrence Crawford. And then now we're hearing that Errol Spence wants to discuss the rematch again. Is that going to do big numbers? Depends, right? Like, we got to see what Errol Spence brings to the table into his next fight. If you brought that fight right back, if it was a get back immediately, I don't think it does the numbers that you would hope it would do. Personally, I really don't. Do we get a different result? I'm going to assume that that's why Errol Spence took the time he needed to prepare himself for that level of fight again, because that was brutal. That was bad. So let's see what happens in the next couple months. I mean, we got some big fights they're talking about. I don't care to see, I really don't. I don't care to see Virgil Ortiz and Terrence Crawford. I think there's better fights out there for him. Tank Davis, you know what? I'm hoping you get a big fight. I want to see how great I already know how great Tank Davis is. We don't even need to discuss that. I just want to see you against the best. who we say is the best, I want to see them come and challenge you for that. Canelo Alvarez and Berlanga. What do you want me to say? Listen, I'm gonna support my Puerto Rican brother, right? Because he's Puerto Rican, and I'd like to see. I actually, not only because he's Puerto Rican. Let me digress, man. He's got an incredible story. Kind of mimics mine. You know what I mean? Father not being around in jail. You know what I mean? Coming in and out of your life, going back to jail. You know what I mean? Like that's the kid made something of himself. Does he deserve this chance? Nah, I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no to that. Is he a good fighter? Sure, yeah, no problem, right? I think he has a lot to work on before you step in the ring with a Canelo Alvarez. I'm just being 100%. But then again, right, and that I don't want to be contradicting myself. This could be, right? This could be that moment in a fighter's life, like I explained earlier, where you realize who you're in the ring with, and you bring that potential out of you, and your IQ goes through the roof, and you're just super cautious in there, right? You make no mistake. Let's see what happens. I honestly, if you want my honest opinion on it, I think Canelo Alvarez is too damn good. He's aged in the game where we now call that ring IQ ring wisdom, right? He's got ring wisdom. We don't even want to call it IQ. IQ's gone through the roof, out the window. That is ring wisdom. And I don't see anybody beating Canelo Alvarez. And I'm going to go out on the limb and tell you, I don't even think Benavidez beats Canelo Alvarez. I'm just being honest with you. You know what? The only reason Benavidez, I think, beats Canelo Alvarez is because he's taller and lanky, and Canelo has had issues with fighters like that. We're talking about Bivol, right? Dimitri Bivol was taller, more lankier. But Bivol had a different style, right? He kept that jab in his face, controlled distance, understood once his distance was compromised, he came in and grabbed. So I will go out on a limb and say I even think that Canelo beats the Benavidez. That's my honest opinion. Is he ducking him? I don't know, man. Maybe, a lot of people say that, right? They say he's ducking him. I'm going to say he understands the position he's in financially. And he's holding out on that, right, for a mega payday. And then he rides off into the sunset with a $200 million fight that he just won. You know what I mean? I'm going to say he wins. But again, I don't want to be biased, right? I do think Benavidez brings problems. He is a problem. So, but that is my pick. I would say Canelo beats Crawford. And I think he beats Benavidez, depending on what weight class they meet at. That's what I have for you. I'm your boy, Mano Live and Direct. Check me out next time. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. I love y'all. I'm out of here.